Dr. Fauci cashes in on COVID fame. The former White House doctor is charging up to $100,000 for an hour of motivational speaking engagements months after leaving the government. And I find it very interesting that so many of these government officials, that when they leave government, former presidents, governors, etc., immediately go into public speaking, which, by the way, literally no one wants to listen to any of these people speak about anything. And to think that people are paying him to speak, which really this is every time I've seen it, it's basically been like a bribe or like a payoff every time that I've seen it. And there's just so many former presidents or really high up government officials that became multi millionaires. I'm not talking about just like a low seven figures, I'm talking more so like high eight figures, low nine figures millionaires from public speaking. So Dr. Anthony Fauci is charging sky-high fees for speaking engagements as the controversial figure reaps the rewards of his pandemic-era fame. The former White House COVID doctor commands between $50,000 and $100,000 for up to an hour's work, according to a listing on the website for the agency leading motivational speakers that has since been scrubbed. Despite his huge fee, Fauci is scheduled to give the commencement address to the Yale School of Medicine on May 2022, though it is unclear how much the college is paying him, which is probably going to be a pretty hefty amount. The 81-year-old recently retired from his post as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, where he had been receiving the highest salary of all government employees at more than $480,000 annually, more than what the president makes. Which, by the way, making $480,000 a year is some good money. So Dr. Fauci, whose net worth is estimated at more than $12 million, became a highly divisive figure during his pandemic response. Critics slammed him for exaggerating the effectiveness of vaccines to boost uptake, flip-flopping on face masks, and pushing for lockdowns. And there it says, Anthony Fauci speaking topics: motivational speakers, healthcare speakers. Okay, I could understand the whole healthcare speaking thing because he is a health official, but at the same time, motivational speaking, like really, who are you going to speak to where you're going to be motivating them? And again, this is like a huge amount. Like a way to basically explain like this like speaker fee range is like the equivalent of someone performing like a pretty decent sized like musical act performing in front of potentially, let's see, 5,000 people potentially in like a stadium, paying a good amount of money. So Dr. Fauci's speaking fees were available on leading motivational speakers as recently as Monday. But there was an outrage on social media when a staffer for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis tweeted a screenshot of the listing with the caption, "Seriously," in all caps, question mark, question mark, question mark. His information appears to have been removed, with the search for his name on the site now yielding no results. That's pretty hilarious. Substack journalist Jordan Schachel criticized the listing on Twitter, writing, "Follow the science, starting at 50K an hour." Meanwhile, former Trump campaign staffer Kingsley Cortez wrote, "The gift that keeps on grifting." Dr. Fauci was initially a revered figure and widely cited infectious disease expert, seen as a safe pair of hands in the face of a new unknown pathogen and dubbed America's doctor. The only thing is, the biggest problem that I see with someone like Fauci is that he just constantly lies, right? And if he were to look back during the whole like AIDS epidemic, he lied throughout that as well. Like he has a historical data set of constantly lying to the public. So his credibility has taken a hit since the height of the pandemic. Among his most notable mistakes during the pandemic was an early recommendation to the public against wearing masks in public places, saying they had little benefit. He later admitted downplaying masks so that Americans did not rush to buy them and risk a shortage for healthcare workers. Dr. Fauci was also a key orchestrator of widespread lockdowns throughout the pandemic, and countless businesses followed his guidance and were forced to shut their doors in the spring of 2020. When Omicron's subvariant began to hit in November last year, Dr. Fauci did not immediately rule out another lockdown, saying at the time that Americans had to be willing to do anything and everything to fight it. And millions of Americans were turned off by his perceived arrogance when he made statements like attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science. Which, by the way, when he did say this back then, this was probably one of the biggest, like, backhanded slaps I've ever seen. Like, other than, like, I guess the UFC fight slap show now. It was a pretty messed up thing to say. He made a full-throated rebuke in 2020 of theories that COVID 19 had escaped or been purposely released from a lab in Wuhan, China, where scientists had been tinkering with highly dangerous pathogens such as coronavirus in a type of research called gain of function. In April 2020, he dismissed the theory as a shiny object that will go away, and later brushed aside claims from other top experts as an opinion. But he since backtracked in the face of public scrutiny for not including perspectives outside of mainstream science. He said in July last year that he and fellow virologists have an open mind to the lab leak theory that looks very much like this was a natural occurrence. Dr. Fauci's net worth is estimated to have grown $5 million from 2019 through 2021 during the pandemic, according to a government watchdog group. So exactly how did his net worth grow 5 million in what, 2 years? That's 2.5 million a year. That's a lot. Let's see. Let's see some of these comments. I wouldn't listen to a minute of his BS even if someone paid me 100K. He should be behind bars. The How to Lie to People's Faces and Sleep Like a Baby workshop. Why would anyone want to hear more ramblings than pay for it? Turn on the tube and listen to Rambling Slobbering Joe. The thing is, right, what a lot of these big government officials do, or former government officials do, is that typically they end up scratching the back of some sort of big corporation or multiple big corporations, where then once they basically get out of the clutches of the government, they basically get hired for these big public speaking arrangements where they're making a lot of money. Like, think about it. He does this 10 times all year, $1 million that year. Now, obviously, he has to pay taxes and whatnot, but just think about that. Imagine you did this every single week. One speaking arrangement every single week, which really wouldn't be that out of the question. So 52 weeks in a year, that's what? 52 times 100,000, that'd be what? 5.2 million, right? I believe that's correct. Let's see. 52 times 100,000. I think it's 5.2 million. Yeah, 5.2 million. 5.2 million dollars a year in speaking arrangements, where it's really just him to go basically show up to places, if he even has to show up, and just get paid a crazy amount of money, right? And the thing is, I don't even like fault these government officials for doing this because it's just easy money for them because they already did the dirty work, right? All these government officials already scratched the backs or lubed the gears for a lot of these corporations or some sort of individuals where they just are now going to get paid this pretty much no matter what. I believe like Jeanette Yellen made, I think, I don't know, like I think she made like 7 million or something like that from like massive banking corporations, and it's just crazy. I definitely don't like it, but it's just such easy money for all these people. Why wouldn't they do it? Right? It's basically like saying like, "Hey, you're already doing something dirty. You already scratched our back before. Like you already did it. So just do this speaking arrangement and make millions of dollars basically doing nothing." Now the thing is, like, there's public speakers out there that do make a really good amount of money, but they're actually public speakers. They're actually speaking about something. I think, for example, one individual, Ed Milet, I think he's a public speaker, and he makes a lot of money public speaking because he speaks to thousands upon thousands of people at a time. I think there's Tony Robbins, who also makes potentially millions upon millions of dollars every single year public speaking. Like, I'm not too familiar with other big name speakers. I mean, I guess maybe. No, I don't really know more public speakers, but there are public speakers out there that make good money legitimately. I just don't trust it anytime I see a former government official getting paid this type of money. Like, one, your fan base pretty much isn't this big enough to justify something like this, right? No matter what type of government official you are. That being said, maybe the more like influencer friendly government officials, maybe the Congress people or whatever, maybe they could potentially do like some sort of public speaking arrangement where they could make this type of money legitimately just because they have a massive fan base. But like someone like Fauci, like really, like you're really trying to tell us like, oh yeah, you're definitely going to be making 50K an hour, 100K an hour for speaking about motivation. You're going to be a motivational speaker when you were a government official. I don't know. Just crazy to me.